February 15th, 1914. There's so many ways you can address the divine. So we have in every of our shastras, we have for instance, Vishnu Sahasranam. We have Lalita Sahasranam. Also we have many in Islam you'll see, various names, of their whatever their conception of God is. Or in Christianity, in Guru Granth Sahib. But there is something about the Upanishad where they address the divine in an impersonally personal way. But who is the divine in relation to me? How do I connect with him? That's so important. Oh, thou who art the most compassionate one is one part. It's true. It's a vast impersonal reality, being. But what you are in relation to me. Now here she is invoking the divine and addressing him to start with as somebody to whom you can personally relate. So those who are so much, they feel devotion, bhakti is all about sentimentality and talk about divine as an impersonal, then you miss out on the real thing. What do you do with your heart's emotions? What do you do with your life that needs a guide, a friend, a counselor, a mentor, a mother, a father? So that's where bhakti comes in. It connects with the divine in a very personal way. So here is this beautiful connection. We start from there. O thou, see, soul, reality. To start with, she's saying, don't look at appearances, only the divine exists. Light of a light and life of a life. Several places he says that. Where is my light in my intelligence coming from? From that light. Who is my life? The breath of my life? It is that life. From whom? That consciousness force, of course, one can go into its great depths because all light is, of course, from that light. It is understood. All life. How is life connected to the super life? Life literally is a consciousness force that becomes life. So literally, even if you see, so that is the life. The only life is the life of the Lord. He only knows, He only sees. And we are like blind people with many bandages, believing we see. So layer by layer He removes one bandage, When you undergo eye surgery, what are we advised? 21 days, put a dark chashma. So that is one eye surgery. But when we are born with a bandage of ignorance from animal to human birth. So 21 lives. Slowly, every life, one chashma is taken off. One bandage. Why? Because suddenly if it is opened, then we'll grow blind. So we think that darkness to be our light. Man lights his little torches of hope that lead to a failing edge. And we think that these flickering lamps that guide us, the mind's flickers, we think they are undying suns. So here comes this prayer. O thou, soul reality, light of a light and life of a life, love supreme, Savior of the world, grant that more and more I may be perfectly awakened to the awareness of thy constant presence. Only one thing that is worth asking for actually. And all else will follow. It needs a tremendous courage and faith. Only one thing, that maybe be conscious of your presence and act according to you. All else will fall in place, align itself. But it's so difficult. It needs that leap of faith. It's a tremendous act of courage to surrender so absolutely. Let all my acts conform to thy law. Let there be no difference between my will and thine. This is a very good place to pause. So, somebody just asked this question: what is the difference between how to know the divine will? So, very often we think divine will is like dogmas of certain religion. If I am following the tenets of a religion, I am observing divine will. This is If I am a vegetarian, for example, I am following divine will. Why? Because God came once and He gave us edicts, 10 commandments, do's and don'ts list. And after that, all that He's doing is sitting with a checklist and seeing whether He's doing right according to my commandments, there. And if He didn't do, Mr. Chitragupt, look at it. So, this is how we have erected an image of God. Isn't it? She's not saying what is that divine law because it is not unfolding like a dogma. So normally we think divine will means whatever God has proscribed and prescribed we are doing. And whatever is He has said not to do, we are not doing. So we are all correct. But that's not what is the unfolding of the divine law. It's a good thing. It's a good training for, obedience is a good training for the egoistic consciousness. So, but here she is saying, my will and thine, let there be no difference. So, this divine will is not religious dogmas, it's not moral conscience, voice of the conscience. There is a letter where he says, the voice of the conscience is not the voice of the soul. Conscience is a mental construct. The soul can lead you into places where you may not have even imagined. And yet it may take you there. Why? Because you are driven by a deep sense of truth in what you are doing. And that's why he says it's better to be, led away, following the dictate of the soul. To give an example, now the deep truth of your being, when you are going through a situation, you feel within which is the highest truth, deep at that given point of time. And you act according to that. And you want to act according to that. And then your mind's notion comes and says, no. Your practical sense says, no. Your social sense says, bilkul no. Your religious sense says, absolutely no. You will be a sinner, you will fall into Kumbi Park. But deep within, the truth in you says yes. See, try following it. So difficult. So difficult. And that's what we see in, in some of our scriptures, how courageous people were, these seers, how they followed this deep truth. And this deep truth is not like today's or for all times. At that given point of time, I had a mind to read Ulupi Sri Aurobindo's poem, Chitrangda, based on that episode. It's a very interesting poem. We'll read it one day. But then you see in this poem what Sri Aurobindo says. There is a deep event that takes place happening between Arjuna and Ulupi. They love and they get married. Okay? Now what is that? That is truth of that moment. And out of them, there is born this Babruvahan, Barbaric, who becomes a legendary person. But after 1 year, what happens? Ulupi says that yes, my love is true and your love is true. But you are not born for this. You are born for greater deeds. And I release you for the world. Now you see, it's so fascinating. But they are both. It requires a tremendous courage to act like that. Or in the life of Ruru and Pramadvara, tremendous courage. This man is giving up half his life. If he called up his friend and said, देखो मैं ऐसे करने वाला हूँ, वो hell में खड़ा हूँ, death is in front of me, he is saying, will you give half your life? Your lover will come back to you. What would his friend have advised? You were always a crazy fellow. Now you have gone fully mad. Come out of that home of death. Arey, what has gone? Gone. Our Upanishads have said what is gone, transitory is gone. Now you see how we can mistake a thing. It's not about an object. It's about the power of love. It's not about Pramadvara as an object whom he wants for his own joy. It's about the truth and dignity of love that he stands. That how can this happen? No, it's vital, but look, vital taken to what peak? If he called up a religious person, even a spiritual person, what he would have said, see, तुम्हारा कुछ भी नहीं था, संसार में अकेले आए थे, you came alone, you are alone, this is the truth, realize it. Isn't it? These would have been the advices. But his heart's deepest truth says, no, I stand by the love, power of love. It's not about person, it's become person independent, it's become object independent. He didn't know, maybe she would have come out and said, oh, why did you call me? I was in a nice state. It's better, it was good riddance from you. Anything she could have said. But it was his love which stands. Now, that moment, it's the God of love that he is worshipping and with whom he has descended into hell to release her from the chains. So she says, let all my acts conform to thy law. Let there be no difference between my will and thine. So it requires a deep, complete freedom from preferences, a complete equanimity from all our ideas, thoughts, opinions, viewpoints to really perceive the divine will. Kurukshetra, we know the famous incidents. Extricate me from the illusory consciousness of my mind. Mind creates all these dogmas, ideas, opinions, viewpoints. And we are trapped in it. We think it is true, but it is an illusory consciousness. It is there today and it will be wiped off tomorrow. From its world of fantasies. Imagine trapped in fantasies. Our whole life is trapped in bubbles of fantasies. You see that people playing on the seashore, no, one bubble after another. Our mind is about something, one bubble. Oh, tomorrow I'll get that chair where today somebody is sitting. One fantasy gone into the air. Now all your acts are in that direction. You don't even realize that now you have started behaving to get that chair and you think it is truth. Your mind will justify it in 100 ways. Oh, this is the person I love. Now all your feelings are running in that direction. Oh, this is the work I am meant to do. Now all things. So we live in a world of fantasies and not knowing what that will is. Let me identify my consciousness with the absolute consciousness, for that art thou. Absolute consciousness. For that art thou. It requires a tremendous dedication. That's why this idea of turning people to yoga, for God's sake, please. It's not a course where you pay some money, you learn some method in 2 weeks, forget the money, forget the God, but be happy with the technique. It's not. It's a lifetime giving. With Sri Aurobindo, they were more, by the way, more people he used to send back. Famous instance being of Chittaranjan Das. His lawyer, whom Sri Krishna used as an instrument, he came to take Diksha from Sri Aurobindo. You know that, no? Story? And Sri Aurobindo said, I cannot yet give you this Diksha because you are not strong enough to bear it. You will break down. Your body is not strong to bear that. But I can give you something else. So he has given him something. One, he says, wherever you are, I'll protect you. Which means he must have been reborn and come and he is protecting. It's word of the Lord stands for all ages. It's not given for a moment. Wherever you are, I'll protect you. You just remember me, I'll be there. And then he gave him some practice, which will prepare him for the sadhana. So imagine, even beings of that and every which way. Chittaranjan Das also got some money for him, but Sri Aurobindo is not deviating from truth. Just imagine. He was instrumental in getting some money also during the time of need. But Sri Aurobindo is not, he must still act according to the deep truth, not with any mental idea. So this is the way the Lord acts, based on that truth, the law of truth. So we can't understand it because we are so much attached to, our small little views and ideas of life. So here she is invoking the Lord. And then what do we need? Give me constancy in the will to attain the end. It's very easy to begin. You go, so nice. Ashram jaake bahut acha lagta hai. Very nice. Samadhi, it's so wonderful. Yes, it's a beginning. A good beginning. A happy, continuation, and an endless progression. You know whom she gave this message? The New Horizon Sugar Mills. She had foreseen that it will close one day, and so she was cautioning. You have made a good beginning. It's very easy to start. So this Sri Aurobindo never hid anything from anyone. But to walk the way, unless there is this constant surrender, faith, you are constantly ready to recalibrate, upgrade, recalibrate. And the only GPS is ultimately Mother and Sri Aurobindo. To turn until, she says even in 1971 one conversation, only the Lord, all the rest is phantasmagoria. Only the Lord, Lord, Ma. That's how the path goes. How does the path go? Ma. Means what we have to do? Ma. Where we have to sit doesn't matter. You are sitting erect, you are walking, you are lying flat, you have been dashed to the ground, or you are holding your head high, you are taking a bath. Ma. Take your bath with me. Ma, be with me. I am brushing my teeth. Ma, I am getting ready. Be with me. Ma, walk with me. Ma, I am eating. Eat with my hands. Ma. Of course, people will call you mad if you are not ready to be abnormal in the eyes of the normal human beings, then you are not ready for the supernormal. As simple as that. So, give me constancy in the will to attain the end. Give me firmness and energy and the courage which shakes off all torpor and lassitude. Energy and courage, firmness, torpor. Okay, I'll read it tomorrow. Sri Aurobindo books are lying. I remember once one real incident about a lady who came to meet me in Jorhat. And she came to the room and just started crying and crying. She had come to discuss about some patient. And crying. 2 hours. I'm telling you 2 hours. I didn't know now what to do. I'm trying everything that, okay, I want to hear a story because, there are patients waiting, there is work to do. But what to do? So crying. And every time I ask, Didi, kyun ro rahe ho? अच्छा कुछ तो अच्छा क्या हुआ? All my tricks up my sleeve I exhausted. Then I also thought कि before I start crying, let me just what to do in that situation. So that day she told me only one truth, and that was why she was crying. No other history. That came later on because I was also very busy. So after that I said, okay, we'll meet again. So the truth was that 20 years back or 24 years back, she had come to Pondicherry for 3 days because her brother had called her. And he had given her a set of complete works of Sri Aurobindo in Hindi, which she took it, kept it in a home, forgot about it. And then she went through all these turbulences and difficulties and trials and tribulations of life. When she came to my room, she saw the collected works as a BCL lying in my office. And pictures of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. So something in her, actually she was crying because of that, how I forgot. So then later on I explained that, what, you came here only for this and the remedy has been shown to you. This is the remedy. It was given to you 20 years back, and had you accepted it, life would not have been what it went through. Real story I'm telling you. It's nothing, not a word is an exaggeration. So this is how life can be. That tomorrow we will read it. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow. We have whole life. Oh, Sri Aurobindo is difficult. Mother ko padho. Mother is not difficult. But I am very busy. Then with mother you can't say, she's difficult. So you are very busy suddenly. So it goes on whole life. And हिंदी में एक वो है ना, कारवां गुजर गया गुबार देखते रहे, दुष्यंत की है ना. Says, give me firmness and energy and the courage which shakes off all torpor and lassitude. Give me the peace of perfect disinterestedness. So she asked for this peace, which is perfect disinterestedness. And we have spoken about this word, which is such an interesting word. Disinterested is not carelessness, indifference. Disinterestedness is no personal interest, nothing selfish. That brings peace. Otherwise, in work, there is always a deviation. Try and see. If you are not disinterested, means you are an interested party. So you have vested interest in it. You are doing very good work in the ashram, the work which has been given to you. But your eyes, chair, budha kab jayega? Ya budi? No, human nature, no? That chair, I must impress. I must please, so that when he is going in the party, he may say, you are the real devotee, the real worker. See, it can creep in so many ways, but perfect disinterestedness means you are not giving any of these considerations. You are doing what you are meant to do, you are doing it nicely, well, straight, offering, that's it. Not trying to impress anyone, not trying to show, not trying to, no kind of sham, nothing, all these masks, 101 that everywhere human beings wear. So, peace of perfect desire. And you know what happens? It takes away the peace. Why? Because we are always trying to look, appear according to our interest. If I wear this dress, what will he think? The man who matters to you. But then it doesn't matter what the divine thinks. So please only the Lord. That's what the mother says. We are here not to please ourselves, not to please others, but to please the Lord. Yes, people may feel bad. They may think, you're a horrible guy. It's okay. Anyways, opinions of human beings doesn't matter. If they say you are a horrible guy, probably, you are a good guy. If they say, you are such a wonderful person, be careful, huh? Maybe you are unwittingly pleasing them and they're very happy with your pleasure. You have become a pleasure person. So I'm not saying you should not be pleasant. You should be pleasant. But the thing, and it should flow from the heart. It should not be something which is fabricated. It should not be a lie. So peace of perfect disinterestedness. The peace that makes thy presence felt. So what we'll feel in the company of somebody who is perfectly disinterested, we'll feel that peace which radiates. It's not indifference, carelessness, sloth, negligence, but the peace, somebody is not engaged through the ego self or the desired self. You will feel peace in the company of such a person. And then what happens? And the intervention effective, the peace that is ever victorious over all bad will and every obscurity. So that peace, this peace is a powerful thing. It's not something like, it wins over all obscurity and bad will just because it surrounds you all the time. And it makes the intervention effective. Grant, I implore thee, that all in my being may be identified with thee, and may I be nothing else than a flaming torch of love, one utterly awakened to thy supreme action of love. Once again we see the highest truth that she is invoking is love, because love is the all victorious power of the Supreme. Why? Because when light comes, darkness vanishes. It hides into crevices where you can't see it. When consciousness comes, unconsciousness goes more and more inside the shell. It puts a rigid armor, plate. Try to awaken consciousness in things inert. No, I am right. You don't know. Unconsciousness hides inside. When truth comes, falsehood starts twisting more and more, spinning more lies. It suddenly is manufacturing unit. It says, please, overprotection. Why? Because truth has come. So you have to impress truth. So truth finds out, says, what about this? No, this is because of that. What about that? That is because of that. But when love comes, what will you do to love? You will just take it. And then what love does, it enters into us and slowly transforms us from inside. You begin to feel, oh, there is so much love. Where am I? Love takes it from the roots and removes it. Before love, you won't hide. You won't resist. You won't justify. Because love is not asking anything. Love is not saying that justify. Tell me. Truth will ask. Tell me this is true or false. Consciousness will not come and say, wake up, you are unconscious. Love will not ask that way. Light will not come and say, I am blazing, darkness, where are you? You will be smitten by my presence. Love will come and say, come, my child, I welcome you into my arms. That's all. They too are safe. The dark deities who leapt in revolt, they too are safe. A mother's arms calls back her rebel sons, Savitri. Even the darkened deities who leapt in revolt to find what the white gods had missed, they too are safe. She goes and doesn't say, you darkness, you falsehood. She says, I am love. Come, you will come into my arms. Abyss is longing for that, inconscient. Oh yes, come. And then love takes into the arms and by its alchemic power changes it. So this is what she is asking us, if we can become that supreme torch, supreme action of love upon life. And with this, we can just read this prayer and close. February 15th, 1914. O thou sole reality, light of a light and life of a life, love supreme, savior of the world. Love is the savior. Another place he says that it is consciousness that has brought out this world, but love is the savior, because love only will plunge into darkness and save it. Grant that more and more I may be perfectly awakened to the awareness of thy constant presence. Let all my acts conform to thy law. Let there be no difference between my will and thine. Extricate me from the illusory consciousness of my mind. From its world of fantasies, let me identify my consciousness with the absolute consciousness, for that art thou. Give me constancy in the will to attain the end. Give me firmness and energy and the courage which shakes off all torpor and lassitude. Give me the peace of perfect disinterestedness, the peace that makes thy presence felt and thy intervention effective, the peace that is ever victorious over all bad will and every obscurity. Grant, I implore thee, that all in my being may be identified with thee, and may I be nothing else than a flaming torch of love, one utterly awakened to thy supreme action of love. Namaste.